of course, trophies is nice. Of course, other things are nice, accolades. But I think to be able to inspire the next generation to be better than I was, I think that's my goal in life.
Welcome to the show, my guy, Chris Richards. How you doing?
I'm good, bro. How are you?
You are the 2025 USMNT National Team Player of the Year.
Yes.
Trying to figure out that identity when you're growing up.
And my mom was white, my dad was black, and so it was just one of those things where it was a bit tough for me to figure out who I was growing up.
I've never asked this question on a sit down,
Yeah.
and I probably won't ever again. Do you remember the first time you changed a diaper?
Yeah, I did.
What was that?
Nerve-wracking. Oh my gosh.
Who has the bigger brand, Michael Jordan or Cristiano Ronaldo? And you are at the top of the top. You're in the Premier League. What was the biggest adjustment going there for you?
One misconception that I think a lot of people have about professional athletes, but especially kids, is that we don't make mistakes. I was wearing elite socks with Sperrys and things like that. Like, it wasn't drip. I thought it was drip.
No. That was drip.
Okay,
that
sorry.
was drip at the time. I said Jeff Hardy was more famous than Obama.
I agree. If he ran against Obama, I think Jeff Hardy would have won.
What does your life look like if you didn't get cut?
I think that was my first time really having a setback.
Teachers laughing at your dreams or doubting your dreams. What would you say to them now? World Cup's approaching. You got some friendlies coming up. What's the mindset? We repping the USA.
Yeah.
Y'all coming for the smoke or what?
Yeah, of course we have to.
A lot of people be out there flopping.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Do you ever be like, break it up?
If you're gonna flop and you lay on the ground, we're gonna give you something to lay down about.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I like that.
Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life. I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new era, about to snap back. You ain't fitting for it, cause you all cap like.
Yeah, you're good. We'll be no worries. So I remember when the news broke that you were leaving.
Yeah.
I grew up in Helena, so I was like, I never knew you from far, but I knew a lot of Hoover guys, like Marion Humphrey and all those guys there. And I was like, man, this kid, whatever happened to that kid? I was like, oh, they ended up becoming like the Legion host, so it's been a dope experience.
That's sick.
How's that been, girl dad?
Yeah, it's been cool. It's a lot of learning, everyday learning, but it's been cool. Last night, and I leave tomorrow morning for Atlanta.
Okay.
And then I'll be back on the 31st.
You coming for that, man?
Yeah,
I'm here for that too. Welcome back to the Stuck in My Thoughts podcast. It's the place you want to be to hear one-of-a-kind POV. As always, I'm your host, Justin Stuckey, and today's point of view comes from a defender for Crystal Palace. He's a Birmingham native. He's a Legion FC owner. Boy, got the big money. Welcome to the show, my guy, Chris Richards. How you doing?
I'm good, bro. How are you?
Good, man. You just flew in last night, man. First off, thank you for taking the time. I left off one of your accolades on purpose. You are the 2025 USMNT National Team Player of the Year.
Yes.
Coming back to where you're from, in your city, what has that moment been like, just reflecting on all the times where you grew up here to where you are now?
Yeah, it's cool. I think even driving around, seeing places like this facility, it wasn't here when I left home. And so I think it's, it just shows how much the city has grown. And also I think it shows how much I've grown as well. So it's been cool to kind of put the two and two together. But again, Birmingham will always be my home. And people talk about other places I've lived in my life. But Birmingham is always the place that raised me and the place that made me. So I always try to somehow revert my answer back to Birmingham.
Yeah, before we started going, we was talking about Hoover. Specifically, you guys have had a lot of elite athletes come out of there. Growing up into your own household specifically, you experienced something that has been talked about more so recently for a lot of mixed individuals. You have two different cultures in the home, and the aspect of trying to figure out that identity when you're growing up. How did you navigate that and try to figure out where you fit in growing up?
Yeah, it was tough. I played basketball and soccer, but I think when you think of both sports, you think of soccer as kind of a more predominant, maybe suburban kind of sport, and then when you think of basketball, you think primarily black. And so I was in both of those worlds, but I never really felt like I fit into just one. And so again, I'd come home and again, my mom was white, my dad is black, and so it was just one of those things where it was a bit tough for me to figure out who I was growing up. But then I kind of was okay with being an outsider, understanding that not everybody would understand my point of view. Nobody would really understand my I guess kind of my place in life, but as long as I did, that was the most important thing.
Mm-hmm. What advice would you give to those people out there that will experience that? Because it's been talked about much so recently. I remember growing up, shout out to the sack riders. It was Dre, sack rider, Destin, sack rider, two brothers. Dre was with the black kids, Destin was with the white kids. And I've heard people talk about sometimes that's a struggle of figuring out who you fit in with, but you should fit in with everybody. What would be your advice to those people?
Yeah, I mean, to always be yourself. I think to never try to box yourself into one category or the other, but to always just try to be yourself, and whoever accepts you, that's your group.
Yeah. When you're growing up and you were typically the only black kid out there playing soccer, who were the people maybe in the pros that you looked up to try to find that sense of, okay, I do belong here and I'm going to try to aspire to be like them?
Yeah. There's a guy I actually played with in Germany. His name's Jerome Boateng. He plays the same position, also is mixed, but, I think when I say mixed, I think I consider myself a black man because that's how the world perceives me. So he's mixed, but pretty much a black man. And he's a guy who I very much kind of wanted to model my game after. But also, like I said, it was seeing somebody that looked like me playing in one of the biggest teams in the world, one of the highest stages in the world. And I think for me, that was something that really meant the world to me. And then there's also another player. His name's Micah Richards. And I saw the last name, and I think a lot of people's last names here, if it's Richard, it's usually Richard's son. So, it was just something small like that attracted me to I guess just him as a person, as a player, and I think those are two guys I very much looked up to.
When you walked in here, first thing I was like, dang, that's a big old soccer player, bro. First off, I don't think you're 6'2". You might be the 6'4", bro.
Hey, I'll take it.
Yeah, you're a tall dude. But I know growing up, your dad used to be a ball player.
Yeah.
A lot of kids, especially when their parents were athletes, they struggle telling their parents they don't want to do the same thing as them. How did you approach telling your dad, basketball is not for me?
I dropped a few hints. over about a year, I dropped a few hints, and he wasn't really vibing with it because I think the toughest part for him was that he saw a lot of things in me that he didn't have at my age. And so he was like, oh, at some point, the height's going to come in, the weight's going to come in. Because at that time, I was very undersized. So I didn't see that in my future, And again, I think I just had fallen so in love with soccer that I wasn't even thinking about basketball. So when the day finally came, I told him, I was like, Dad, I'm sorry. Like, I know it's going to break your heart, but I only want to play soccer from here on out. And he was like, well, you have to be 100%. You have to, go as hard as possible and, try to make this into your life, into a job. So that's exactly what I did, and I haven't looked back since.
Yeah, I heard it was a trip to Argentina that really sparked it. What do you remember about that trip?
Yeah, I mean, I remember the passion. I'd never left the country, and I was so kind of isolated to the Southeast. I hadn't really ever been anywhere except the Southeast. So going to a Latin country like Argentina and seeing, one of the, I guess the beautiful games, what we call it, but seeing it in kind of its purest form, which is, South America, it was so beautiful. And there's some scary moments, on our team bus, they were throwing stuff at our bus. And
Lord.
They were cursing us, and none of us spoke Spanish, so it was kind of cool, but also kind of scary, but just the whole experience was
They could have been hyping you up, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not sure. They could have been, you're right. But no, it was an experience that I will never forget, and I think that was really the spark where I told my dad, I was like, this is all I want to do for the rest of my life.
Hoover, we've talked about that specifically. I said you guys have crazy athletes come from there. Marlon Humphrey, who's been on the Ravens, George Pickens, who's now on the Cowboys, Trey Jemison, balling in the NBA as well. What is it about you guys? What is it about Hoover?
And Hoover you.
Hoover you.
No, it's just, I don't know. It's just the sports there. I feel like we're always trying to push each other to be, I guess, the best sport in the school. And I think when you have a culture like that, and even if it's not the school sport, it's just the aspect of sports in general. And I think Birmingham, we do it really well. But I think in particular, I think Hoover, it's just, you want to be the next person that's talked about, coming out of Hoover. And so I think everybody's kind of had that mentality. And, we've tried to push Hoover to be where it's at right now. But, I think Marlon's kind of the one that started it all off for everybody. And everybody just kind of tried to follow his path.
Even the coaches, Coach Nibley, he's at Colorado now.
Exactly.
So, yeah, y'all ball. I give y'all props.
We'll take that.
At what point were you committed to UNC?
Yeah, so after my junior year, so I left Hoover at 16 and moved to Houston. And then when I was at Houston, we won the national championship for the academy program. And so after that, I was in contact with UAB, like University of Memphis. But once UNC came in, no disrespect to the other two schools, but when UNC came in, I was like, this is it. So I went and took a visit there, brought my dad and my mom along, and they took us through like the basketball stuff and everything, and it was beautiful. So right after, so the start of my senior year in high school, I committed to UNC.
Nice. Ed, what did it do for you once you moved away from your family? You're in a new setting. What did it do for your maturity level at that age?
Yeah, I mean, it made me grow. It's they talk about getting uncomfortable to grow, and I think that's exactly what you need to do. I think I could have easily stayed here and tried to figure it out, but I don't think I'd be where I am if I hadn't taken those opportunities. So it made me grow up really fast, and I was not at all ready for that opportunity and for moving away from my family. And I was missing out on my little brother, who was probably 3 at the time. My sister was 9, so I missed out on a lot of years of their development. And sometimes I look back on it, I'd say maybe that was the only part of the journey that I'd regret was not being able to be there for birthdays and holidays and things like that. But I think we will have great relationships now. But it was very tough. It was a lot of nights of questioning, this is what I want to do. It was nights of calling my family, being homesick. But they gave me the push that I needed every time I was able to call them.
Yeah, you touched on a good point. I didn't even have this written down or prepped, but the aspect of missing out on a lot of the big moments when you're chasing the dream. And for my field with sports media, it's going to require sacrifices. With your field with soccer, it's going to require sacrifices. This show, I like to give advice to the people watching. Mm-hmm. What advice do you give to those people who have a dream, but maybe feel so attached to where they're from or their family dynamic and the sacrifices that you're going to have to make if you want to reach that dream?
Yeah, I think the best advice that I got from a former coach was you don't want to live life with regrets. So I had the chance when I first went to Germany. I told FC Dallas I didn't want to go, and I had a former coach who's now the head coach of FC Dallas. He was like, "Man, I had the chance when I was your age, and I didn't take it, and I regret it every day." And again, I think that's the biggest thing, because if I hadn't taken the opportunity, again, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. And so I think the number one thing is you don't want to live life with regrets, and also I already said it, but I think sometimes you need to be uncomfortable to grow.
Facts. What does your life look like if you didn't get cut?
Honestly, I think about it a lot, to be fair. Like I don't think I'd be where I'm at today. I think that was my first time really having a setback in my career. I think you kind of go from being a top dog here in Birmingham to go into one of the best academies in the U.S. And it hurt a lot. I remember coming back home, and for the first few days, I was sulking. I was sad. I didn't want to play soccer for a little bit. I just was kind of, again, I was just a hurt teenager. And then I got the call to go to Houston, and the coach at the time, who was the same one who gave me the advice earlier, he lit the fire under my butt, and he was like, this is the chance to play Dallas twice a year, so this is your chance to do it,
Yeah.
And once I heard that, I was game. I was ready to go. And again, my family, they weren't so ready for it, because I just turned 16, and they were like, you're gonna live with a host family, so people you never met, and you're gonna be living 8 hours away from home by car. But once they saw how determined I was, and they saw that I was kind of turning the hurt into fuel, then they were ready for it.
Yeah, I like that, bro.
Yeah.
I think I always like to say the failures make the successes.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to go through adversity. And when I was prepping for this sit down, I saw that back in 2008 during the economy crash, your family lost their business.
Yeah.
Seeing your parents be able to persevere throughout the adversity, how has that helped you on your journey, knowing how whenever you're going to face that adversity, you know how to approach that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the sacrifices that they made for me to be where I'm at right now mean the world to me. And I think that's one of the reasons why I go as hard as I do. It's because they never gave up when their world was crumbling, And I think, we have different problems. Like, I was 16 and I feel like my world was crumbling when at the end of the day, it was just a setback. For them, it was, financially. And I think finances are a big part of life, Mm-hmm. So, again, they never gave up on themselves. They gave themselves time to be sad, but they always made sure that me and my siblings had everything we needed and more. So, I have a daughter now, and I think I don't want her to ever look at me and feel like I've given up, or like I've kind of taken the easy way out. I want to make sure that not that I don't just provide for her, but also give her a person to look up to.
Mm-hmm. How have you been able to navigate that role as star soccer player, football player for you guys out there, star football player, and also the role of a father, because you're a young father?
Yeah, it's definitely been a challenge. It's been it's been a lot of days, nights away from my family, from my girlfriend and my daughter. But again, it's something that, it's some sacrifices that you have to make. And, I feel like every day that I miss, she's growing or she's doing something new. And I guess that part hurts, but also I know that, I have a few years in my career that I need to do what I need to do so that she never has to, worry about things for the rest of her life. So, again, sacrifices is a big part of the game, and it's something that you have to be willing to do if you want to make it. So, it's been, like I said, it's been tough, but it's been very fulfilling. Seeing her grow, she's turned into a beautiful little girl, and she brings so much light to my life. She means the world to me.
We love the girl dad.
Yeah, we do.
Man.
We love being a girl dad.
I've never asked this question on a sit down,
Yeah.
and I probably won't ever again. Do you remember the first time you changed a diaper?
Yeah, I do.
What was that?
Nerve-wracking. Oh my gosh. I think I had to keep trying to put the diaper on probably like 4 or 5 times. It was terrible. Terrible.
Did you practice before, like on a?
Yeah, but the doll wasn't moving. So no, she was going crazy. And let's see, I think since then I've gotten a little bit better.
Yeah.
I would hope to say I've gotten a little bit better, but it's still a challenge sometimes.
Yeah. Shout out to the moms out there.
Honestly, shout out to them. They make everything look a lot easier than what it is.
Yeah. I saw your Instagram. Where did the nickname Eastmamba come from?
Yeah. So I grew up playing basketball, like I said, and I was a huge LeBron fan, but I was also a really big Kobe fan. And, I guess growing up, I would always wear Kobe's when I was playing basketball. And I'll never forget, one day I got logged out of my old Instagram when I was really young. And I was like, man, you know what? Let me come up with something new, something different. So I'm like, all right, I'm from the East, Southeast, whatever you want to call it. And I'm a Kobe fan. So let me just see if this name's taken, And it wasn't taken, so I kept it. And then I remember one day I was changing it. I was like, oh, this doesn't make any sense. Eastmamba, who cares, So I changed it. And I'll never forget, a kid came up to me in school. He was like, bro, keep Eastmamba, that's sick,
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, cool. And ever since I was probably 13 or 14 years old, I've had Eastmamba. But just stemmed from being a Kobe fan, honestly.
Nice. I see you got the tattoo.
Yeah.
There.
Exactly.
Who all you got on?
I got Kobe, Muhammad Ali, Martin Luther King, Barack Obama.
You got the goats.
Yeah. I got
that.
a few things on here.
That's what's up. I've always admired athletes who are able to level themselves up, people who don't like to be stagnant. Mm-hmm. And you are at the top of the top. You're in the Premier League. What was the biggest adjustment going there for you?
Yeah, I think coming from Germany to the Premier League, I think in Germany there was some games where you could kind of go into the game knowing that you were going to win or at least get a good result. And then when you get to the Premier League, it's the best league in the world. Every team has some of the top players from every country, and it's not a cakewalk anymore. And so I think that was one of the things is that I had to adjust to really quickly is that mistakes in the Premier League, they get they're costly. Mm-hmm. And so I think it was just maturing as a player on the field and understanding that your mistakes mean a little bit more and things like that. But I think also off the field is that recovery means so much. I think that's something I moved to England when I was 22, and 22, you still can get away with stuff, not stretching, not doing this and that.
Just a little,
exactly,
ready to go,
just a little crack in your back, But now, you really have to, I think recovery is just as important as the stuff on the field. And so I think when I finally got to England, that was the first time where I really was like, whoa, I really need to start taking care of my body.
Mm-hmm. Are there vets that are pouring in, or you're watching them, or they're giving you advice in that aspect? Because I guess it is a myth, but I saw the thing LeBron spends $1 million on his body or something like that. I think for every athlete, the coach can only say so much. Mm-hmm. We got a training room right there, but you got to go in there.
Exactly.
Have you seen or had conversations with the guys who've come before you about that, of how to really be a pro?
Yeah, definitely. We have some veteran guys at the club, and even with the national team, they're always like, you need to do this. Trust me, in a few years you're gonna feel it. You know? And I was all like, nah, I'm cool. And then a year passed, and I was like, oh my gosh, they weren't lying. So it's definitely some guys there who have experienced it. And even myself, I experienced a big injury before the last World Cup. And after that, I was like, it's because I wasn't taking care of my body. So since that day, I've really tried to invest, not $1 million into my body, but I tried to invest a good amount of time and money into my body. And, I think I'm reaping the benefits of it now.
What was that injury?
So I tore my quad muscle.
Oh.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, that was a bad one.
I'm hiding the the scar I got under these jeans, I tore my patella and it
man.
popped into my quad. But we good now, though.
There we go.
Look at my Instagram. I was doing them hurdle hops yesterday. Talking about recovery. I did them hurdle hops. I was like, dang, I got to get some ice packs on now. What do you feel like is the best part of being an international professional athlete? Because you're not just a pro athlete here, but you worldwide.
Yeah. I think it's the experience. I think it's – let me rewind. I think it's the cultures and the people that you meet along the way. I think Birmingham – not saying that there's not a lot of culture here, but I think when you leave this place and you go to a place like London, which is one of like the international hotbeds, you learn that there's a lot more to life. You see people from South America, from Africa, from Europe, from every continent on the planet, and it's all migrated into one city. And so I think the best thing that I've kind of gathered from being an international professional is all the people you meet along the way, because there's no way where a kid from Birmingham should be playing with a kid from Japan in London, but that's just where life brought us at that time. So it's really cool where this sport can take you.
That's what's up right there. And I love Birmingham.
Yeah.
But we don't have too much culture.
Yeah,
it's okay.
yeah.
We kind of got one way around here.
Exactly.
That's fine. We got the rednecks here. We got the cool people.
There we
It's
go.
all right. It is what it is. I've been to London once, but that was when I was 14. So I need to go back into the mix now as I'm older. And looking at your Instagram, I'm gonna give you your props, man. You got some style.
Thank you.
How much has being over there improved your style? At what point do you feel like, okay, I got it?
I always felt like I had it until I look at old pictures and realize that's the only problem. I'd probably say after about 2 years in London, I started to really understand what my style was. There was a point where living here in Birmingham, I was wearing elite socks with Sperrys and things like that. Like, it wasn't drip. I thought I was drip.
No. That was drip.
Okay,
that
sorry.
was drip at the time. Elite socks and Sperrys,
Exactly.
bro. That was generational.
That's the thing. You tell people about that now, and they're like, what do you mean?
What do you
people
wear?
not from Birmingham, they're like, what are you talking about,
I don't even think people know what Sperrys are,
That's
let
what I'm
alone
saying.
elite socks.
It's, oh, man.
You just had to be there.
generation.
You just had to be there.
But it's, again, I think it's figuring out who you are, and also it's kind of a mix of cultures, So I think it took me about a year or two after moving to London, but I always felt like I had a different sense of style, but I didn't really know how to, explore it. And I think that's one of the things that you can do with fashion is that you can explore, but also it's a reflection of you. So I think style is really cool. I think it's really important.
Yeah, I saw a video on YouTube. It was you and a teammate. Y'all went to some warehouse, but it was a vintage shop.
Oh, yeah. Sick.
Where is that? It was not published anywhere. I was trying to find the name of it.
Crazy. It was in London. It was in South London.
I gotta go to London.
Yeah, I can link you to the people, but it is crazy. They're just huge, just like memorabilia collectors, and I felt like a kid in the candy shop there. There was everything, they were showing me like University of Alabama stuff, Auburn stuff. They were showing me UAB stuff. Like, I was like, how do you have UAB stuff? Like, Alabama,
here.
Auburn, all right, cool, I got it. But UAB in London, impossible. But they had stuff from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, like every generation of sport, and it was insane.
Bro, I saw that. I was trying to go to the comments, I was like, bro, where is this place at?
I went there, and then I went back the day after when the cameras weren't there, because I didn't want to spend too much money on the camera. But it was beautiful.
Bro, I saw that stuff. I was like, bro, they got some gems. I'm a big jersey guy too. As you can tell.
Hard.
Shout out Fanatics for sending me this. So I hit them up. I was like, yo, I'm sitting down with Chris Richards, bro, and they just dropped a new kit. So I was like, send me the kit.
Yeah.
They was like, Justin, we can't get the kit in time. We're gonna send you a kit though to wear. We can get you the kit next week.
Yeah.
So
that one's cold. I think that's one of my favorite U.S. soccer kits.
when they sent this, I opened that box. I say, I need that. I need that. One thing that I noticed, and I feel like it is so common for the people who have success. You got doubters, you got haters, and it's even from people within your circle. Mm-hmm. I watch a lot of my guest former interviews when I'm prepping, and a lot of the constants you have said were that when you were growing up here, you're telling teachers, I want to be a pro soccer player. I want to go all the way in soccer. I saw you had a drawing when you were a kid that you framed like.
I got it tattooed.
Tattooed.
Yeah, I got it tattooed.
Yeah. When you have the people who are supposed to be in your corner, the teachers, laughing at your dreams or doubting your dreams, what would you say to them now?
I told you. No, I mean, I think it's all love, I think with every setback, it makes you, or it should make you want to, elevate. And I think it was the same thing, I think them telling me that at a young age, I was like, all right, cool. I'll show you one day, And at the time, I probably took it a lot harder than what I am now. but again, you know, I think when you have this will and this determination to do something, you shouldn't let anybody tell you otherwise, you know? And again, I think it's easy for somebody to tell you when you're 10 years old, like, oh, like, you can't do that. But I have my whole life ahead of me, so why can't I do it, you know? And so I think that's kind of always the mentality that I've had. And, you know, even though they didn't see the vision, I saw it in myself. And so I think that's something that, honestly, I'm grateful that they said those things, because maybe I wouldn't be here. I think that's kind of, I think I reflect a lot on my life, and I always wonder, like, oh, what if this situation hadn't happened? What if this situation hadn't happened? But everything happened for a reason, and it got me to the place where I'm at right now.
You think it's more about proving other people wrong or proving yourself right?
I think it's proving myself right. You know, I think if you're always looking for other people's approval, you know, you'll never be fulfilled. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's something where I think you should listen to what other people have to say. But I think ultimately, if you want to become the best version of yourself, you have to live with every decision that you make along the way.
Yeah. I saw a video, I don't know if you guys were doing a kids camp or whatever, but a little girl came up to you and she was like, I don't believe myself. And I was like, number one, props to you at your age to be that open and honest. But your response to her was great. You went from giving her encouragement, but also giving her perspective of your own experience. There's times I miss goals. There's times I do this, do that. There's a lot of kids out there who want to aspire to be great, and they may have the self-doubt. Like, what is your message to them? Because you've been able to be from the time where you're in a classroom, the teacher laughing at your dream. Now you are living the dream.
Yeah. I think one misconception that I think a lot of people have about professional athletes, but especially kids, is that, you know, we don't make mistakes. And I think when you're able to connect with them on a human level and understand, and are able to help them understand that you also make mistakes, so you're not perfect, I think it allows them to, you know, to be more vulnerable.
All good, yeah.
And also just to allow them to connect with you. And I think, you know, I was kind of thrown off when she told me that, because like you said, you know, it's not something that a lot of kids are able to, you know, to come out and say. But I think with her being able to say that, I know I just thought back to, you know, 10-year-old me who was told that I couldn't do something, and I never wanted her to have that feeling. So no, I haven't spoken to her since, obviously, but I hope she's doing well, and I hope she's believing in herself.
I hope you're doing well out there.
Yeah, I hope so.
She may grow up to be like elite.
She
may be on a podcast one time and be like, I remember Chris Richards told me to believe in myself.
Exactly.
And ever since then, you'll be feeling good.
Yeah, so that's my whole goal with where I'm at in life, is that, you know, I think athletes, we have a platform, but I think for me, like I've always said that my dream is for a kid to pick up a soccer ball because of me. You know, I think, of course, trophies is nice. Of course, other things are nice, accolades. But I think to be able to inspire the next generation to be better than I was, I think that's my goal in life.
Whatever you think about the aspect of mental health, I feel like it's talked about so much nowadays. But when I was growing up, it really wasn't talked about as much. I mean, when we were growing up, we just kind of, you know, took things in stride the way they were.
Yeah.
Do you look at it different now that it's talked about more, or do you still have that, maybe the old school mindset of like, you know, what's going to happen is going to happen, we're going to get through it?
I think I have a little bit of both. You know, I think, you know, you hear about professional athletes or, you know, actors, whatever the case is, being depressed, and you think like, oh, how could you be depressed with all these things around you? And then you get to this level and you understand that there's a lot more that goes into mental health than just, you know, a result. You know, there's things that go on in your life that, you know, like when I speak about professionals, like or especially men, you know, we're taught to just suck it up and to just, you know, move on with it. And at some point you're meant to just kind of crack. And so I think that's something that, you know, I think with mental health being a lot more openly spoken about, I think it's really nice because, you know, it allows people to connect and for them to understand that they're not alone. Especially in high pressure, I guess, careers and things like that. It shows that, you know, there are people that are like you who are struggling. Then also sometimes I do have this mentality and this mindset that, you know, it will pass one day, so I just have to put one foot in front of the other and just keep it going, and eventually the dominoes will start to fall at the right time.
Yeah, I think it's a tough situation. A lot of times I'll do like individual of these episodes, and when Ronaldo Moore passed, the NFL player, it was tough for me to actually just talk about it by myself because we're guys. You really don't talk about that aspect. And you mentioned pro athletes. A lot of people think you guys don't make mistakes. They think that you guys, and rightfully so, but are superheroes and don't feel the same emotions as the everyday person. And that's the real reason why I started this show. I mean, you were U.S. Men's National Player of the Year. Like, you are doing your thing at the highest level. And the regular person, the everyday person is going out there working. You guys can have similarities, but they wouldn't think that.
Exactly.
So from that aspect, I just think it's something that people really need to reflect on and understand. Number one, you're not alone in this. Mm-hmm. And then understanding that you can talk to people. It's not weak to ask for help of, hey, just because somebody's making a lot of money and they're good at a sport don't mean they don't have things going on in the background. Help. Yeah, we all need help. Yeah. And you said something, I can't remember exactly what you said, but it made me think about this, the faith aspect. Mm-hmm. Oh, you said this too shall pass. And that made me think about the scriptures. Every time you go onto the field, you always touch the grass and go up. How prevalent has faith been for you? And where do you feel like in your life it really stuck for you? Because everybody has to choose that walk.
Yeah, I mean, we've grown up in the Bible Belt, and so I think as a kid, I felt like church was it was almost like a social event, like everybody in my school went to the same church and all of our parents knew each other. And I think, again, when I finally moved away from home, or even when I moved to Germany, that was the first time where I was really like, oh, they don't do that here, And it was different because I had to find out my own faith, I wasn't going to church every Sunday, sometimes we play, sometimes I always I wasn't always going to church and stuff like that. But one thing that my family always instilled in me was prayer. And, I always prayed, good days, bad days, you always pray. But I think over the last ever since I really started playing with the national team was really when I think I kind of stepped more into my faith. We have a great chaplain there, and we have a good group of believers there who, we lean on each other, And again, I think we speak about trying to find similarities and trying to find people to connect with. I think, again, we deal with mental health issues, but also we deal with this beautiful sport that we love, and we also deal with faith. And I think it's good to have people like that around you who you can really connect with. And so, I think over the last few years since playing with the national team, it's really helped me step into my faith. But I think, faith means everything to me because, I've been in the right places at the right time, and I don't think it's by chance. I think God put me there for a reason. And the relationships I have around me, my girlfriend, my daughter, my family, everything, they weren't just given to me. I think God put them in my life for a reason.
Yeah, you definitely have received a lot of blessings, and one of those blessings are the financial aspect of your career. How have you been able to navigate the generational wealth aspect while also being very young? Yeah,
no, I think it's definitely a fear that I think my dad had for me growing up, or at least when I first started stepping into the professional game. And I think he instilled a lot of values into me since I was young, especially with the kind of economy crashing. But also, you hear about all the horror stories about professional athletes kind of going broke, during the career, right after. And I never wanted that for my life. I've spoken about creating, this wealth for my daughter so that she never has to worry about stuff. And I think sometimes, it's easy to be selfish when you think of your finances, but also, that there's people that are coming behind you that, they also need to live, and, they also should have a good life, So I think it's, for me, I always try to give back when possible. I always try to, invest when possible. Of course, like to have a good time, but more than anything, I think I want to make sure that everybody that's coming behind me is taken care of.
Nice. Why did you decide to invest and take ownership in the Legion? That's what brought us here.
Yeah, it did. It's I think the whole reason why I invested is because this is something that I wanted to see growing up. I think it's, well, to be fair, it knocks off two things on my checklist. It's giving back to my city, but then also investing in the future of soccer in my city. And, I think everybody at the Legion, we have the same values. Everybody wants the same thing. Everybody wants to see this game grow, and everybody wants to see people from Birmingham stepping into kind of the same limelight that I'm in. And so I think that's one of the reasons why I decided to do that. And again, it's been beautiful to see the growth of the city, but also it's been beautiful to see the growth of the game in the city. And so I think it was just perfect timing for me to join the ownership group.
Like that. Perfect timing, like Shador Sanders. Yes, sir. Wait, I ain't gonna watch on. Wait, it's all right. Have you been tapped into March Madness?
Not too much, man. That's the one thing that I miss about living in Europe, is that about living here, is that they don't show college sports at all.
Dang.
That's me. I'm a college sports guy from Alabama. I love college sports, but man, I saw Duke was playing right now.
Yeah. We got a wrap this up so we can get back to watching. But we got an event tonight. I heard that you were a Bama guy. I don't know if you know my background. I went to Auburn. It's okay, though.
Yeah.
It's all good.
We won't talk about it.
So, are you a WWE fan?
Yeah, I was growing up, yeah.
Okay, I'm a huge WWE fan. We've had some WWE wrestlers on the show before. What's your Mount Rushmore for wrestlers?
Randy Orton.
Okay.
Randy Orton has to be one. I think Jeff Hardy also has to be one.
Yeah.
Every kid was doing the Jeff Hardy.
Yes.
Has to be.
I said Jeff Hardy was more famous than Obama.
I agree. If he ran against Obama, I think Jeff Hardy would have won.
Bro, Xavier, when you see this, I'm telling you, Jeff Hardy was that guy.
He was. He definitely was. I'd say Triple H. I think, again, everybody was doing the... Yeah. We were getting in trouble in school for that. You know? And Mount Rushmore's 4, huh?
Yeah. You got one more you can put on there, and this is my guy, so I hope you say him. We'll see.
Honestly, I think I'm going to have to put Rey Mysterio on there just because...
How to Rey?
He was putting on for the short guys.
Yeah.
You know, like he was with the mask.
The mask man, yeah.
He was... I think Rey Mysterio was on there for sure. If I throw in the 5th, it'll have to be probably Mark Henry.
Dang, Mark Henry over John Cena? I'm a Cena guy. That's why I said that.
I do love Cena. I feel like that would have been the easy one. I feel like that would have been easy, but John Cena and The Rock, I think, have passed over Mount Rushmore. I think if there's something higher than Mount Rushmore, they're on that.
They got their own mountain.
Exactly. They're on 2 mountains. Yeah. But I think maybe if I threw another one, I'd throw the wild card, probably Mark Henry.
Okay, I like that. Hopefully we can get him on the show. There's been some talk, so I'll send it your way.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'll send it your way. All right, man. You're here for like 24 hours.
Yeah.
Getting back.
Yeah.
You're playing. World Cup's approaching. You got some friendlies coming up. What's the mindset? We repping the USA.
Yeah.
Y'all coming for the smoke or what?
Yeah, of course we have to. You know, I think it's something that I've said a lot is that there's no such thing as a friendly. You know, I think friendly is just a kind of an easy term that you want to put on a game. But every game, you know, we want to go out there and show out, and especially, you know, with it being on home soil, you know, we want to do our big one. You know, we want to win a World Cup this summer. So we have to approach every game like that, you know, regardless of who we're playing.
Yeah, I saw y'all was like clearing the bench? Y'all call it the bench? Yeah, y'all going for that smoke.
Man, it's time. Yeah, it's time for it. You know, I think people think of soccer players as being soft, but no, come play us. We'll show you.
Yeah. No, that brought up a good point, 'cause I was going to ask you about that. I've been able to be more immersed into soccer and football now. A lot of people be out there flopping.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Do you ever be like, break it up? Like, what you doing?
Yeah, that's the issue, you know, especially when we play like South American teams, things like that. Like, if you don't have the right ref, you know, it gets kind of nasty out there with the flopping and stuff like that. So sometimes, you know, you gotta give them a tackle that they'll remember. You know? If they're gonna flop, at least make sure that you give them with a tackle that they remember. So, I think that's one of the kind of like the mindset that we have is that, you know, if you want to, you know, try to bring it to us, like, we're going to show you that, you know, nobody can out physical us, but also, you know, if you're going to flop and you lay on the ground, you know, we're going to give you something to lay down about.
Ooh, yeah. I like that. You ever played Messi or Ronaldo yet?
Nah, I wish, you know, Ronaldo he's my GOAT, you know. I think there's a big debate, but Ronaldo's the reason I picked up the soccer ball. You know, I think with the same initials, and I had every pair of cleats like Ronaldo. Couldn't quite score like Ronaldo, but I tried until I couldn't anymore. But he was the reason I picked it up.
Me and my friends had this debate. This just came to mind. Who has the bigger brand, Michael Jordan or Cristiano Ronaldo?
That is a tough one. Michael Jordan or Ronaldo? I'm going to say Jordan right now because I think Jordan is older and I think he's had more years to develop that brand. Mm-hmm. But I think Ronaldo, if we had this combo in maybe 10 years, I think Ronaldo will have passed that because he just... Every aspect of life, I think, knows about Ronaldo. But then you think about Jordan in that people might not know who Jordan is, but they're probably wearing the shoe.
That logo,
that logo goes everywhere, you know? So I think I'll have to go with Jordan right now. But I think it's very close.
That was my pick. I said Jordan simply from the aspect that he doesn't have social media.
Yeah, exactly.
Ronaldo's social media is through the roof, but Jordan don't have it. I don't think he has to have it.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
So... I'm glad you answered that. That one just came to mind.
Yeah.
All right, we got 3 quick more. Cool. I asked you about your WWE Mount Rushmore, which was not the plan. Yeah. What's your football Mount Rushmore?
Football Mount Rushmore. I'll say Ronaldo. I think I'll have to say Messi. I will say... I'll say Manuel Neuer. He's a goalie. Play with him. That's my boy.
Yeah.
And I will say Maldini, defender. Yeah.
Bad foe right
there.
there.
There we go.
All right, Chris. Last 2 questions. I ask everybody that comes on the show. The name of the show is Stuck in My Thoughts. What do you get stuck in your thoughts about?
Oof. The future. I think, a lot of the times, especially with this being a World Cup year, you think about, well, now this is March. You think about in 2 months, what's my life going to look like? In 3 months, what's my life going to look like? But I think that's something where I need to step back and realize that if I always think about the future, I won't really be able to live today. So it's kind of the mentality that I need to adopt, and I try to adopt at least.
That's what's up. And this show is always built on connection. Shout out to Steph for setting this up.
Yes.
She's the MVP. Who should come on the show next?
Who should come on the show next? Honestly, I like to see my dad on this show.
Okay.
I think he also has a very unique point of view. He's from Troy. So I think
they were in March Madness.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think Troy also is kind of like this. I don't know. I think growing up in Troy, I think you have a lot of life lessons that people in Birmingham don't even have. And I think for him, being a black man from Troy, marrying a white woman, having a biracial kid that plays soccer, like I think that he would very much he's played in Iceland, Australia, places like that. I think he'd very much have an interesting point of view on life.
He hooped at Birmingham Southern, right?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, RIP Birmingham Southern.
Yeah. My sister was going to go there for volleyball. And,
where'd she go now?
She goes to UAB, but she went to Lawson for volleyball, and now she's finishing up at UAB.
Okay, shout out to the Blazers. My sister's a freshman there. So
sick, yeah.
That's what's up. Well, Chris, I appreciate you taking the time to be on the show, man. We got a watch party event to attend, so we got to go.
Yeah.
But, Chris, we're wishing you the best of luck in those friendlies, in the World Cup, USA, all day. Yep. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for all we got on Stuck in My Thoughts. We out of here. Yes, sir.
That's sick.
Appreciate it, bro.
Of course, bro. Thank you. Oh, that was dope.
Whoa. Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believe me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah.